Chapter 31. My perfectly restful but dreamless sleep was interrupted by a gentle, rocking motion. It took me several seconds to realize what was going on, and my heart nearly stopped. The cool night air and a million-star display greeted me. The rolling motion from an inflatable dinghy in the middle of a large body of water. I could faintly smell salt in the air, so I knew the ocean was close. In the distance, a tiny row of lights could be seen reflecting off the water. There was a larger boat floating just 20 yards away. The panic mounted when I realized my hands were bound behind me. I struggled against the bindings, fear pounding in my chest. My commotion caught the attention of someone on the boat, and he yelled, "Hey boss, the punk's awake. We're ready when you are." Several dark figures appeared on the edge of the boat, which looked to be a large yacht. A bright spotlight blinded me for several seconds till my vision started to correct. I was finally able to fully assess my surroundings, and the reality of my egregious mistake becoming apparent. Besides my hands, my feet were also chained to a heavy cement block. The raft I was sitting in was an inflatable type used for emergencies on larger boats. An old childhood fear raced back to my present, and I immediately felt lightheaded and nauseous. When I was 10 years old, I almost drowned when I cramped badly while swimming in a lake. In actuality, the fear and panic almost drowned me, not the water. I never fully overcame those fears, never spoke of them either, but here they were, paralyzing me again. "What do you want from me?" I yelled out, surprised at how desperate I sounded. I jerked my hands and felt something cutting into my wrists. A smooth and arrogant voice replied, "Not much, Mr. Rourke. Just some information, really. To start us off, go ahead and tell us about the individuals in your cell." A pang of guilt immediately hit me. There was certainly no way I was giving them any information, but I could certainly give them facts that they most likely already knew. My goal was to buy time. "Our leader's name is Nella. She calls all the shots." Several seconds passed, and Anon replied, "We already know Nella extremely well. She would never be in this situation." He laughed. "She is not the leader anyway. Tell us about the others. I need names." "Why don't you take me aboard and we can discuss? And I'm not answering anything else till I see Daniel and I know he is being released." "Oh, you have misunderstood. It was never part of the deal to release the boy. I merely said that you would have the opportunity to see him again if you came with us. Now, if you would like to come aboard, we need to know that you are ready and willing to join us, become a soldier in our ranks. Then, and only then, will you have the opportunity to see the boy. In fact, he is waiting below deck right now, resting. Now tell me about the members of your cell." Smooth, Finn, you moron. My mind struggled over the panic to analyze the situation and devise an escape. It's not looking good. My natural instincts kicked in, and I replied in pure smart-ass fashion, "I don't see that happening. I find you so detestable, I would rather bathe in fire ants than help you." My confidence took a weak hold, and I felt the panic ebb slightly. This may yet be a battle. "Do your worst, you egotistical fuckwad." The deck of the ship assumed a ghostly quiet as several dark figures awaited for Anon to respond to my impertinence. Another outline joined them at the railing of the ship, and the other figures backed away. The lights on the ship came on and illuminated a beautiful blonde in a tight red dress. That voice in the back of my head made me crying. My mind was racing trying to place her. She spoke in a warm and friendly tone. "Finn, please reconsider. I know all about your deepest hidden fears, and I would hate to see you swallowed by them." Finally it clicked. "Lucy! Your name is Lucy!" My foggy mind was in top gear trying to put the pieces together. How is she involved in this? Is she a seeker like Tiffany? "What are you doing with these people?" I asked. She smiled warmly and replied, "These are my people. Finn, just like you, will be one of my people. The lies you have been told are the reason you are in danger right now. You need to reconsider your decision to join them, and I am giving you an opportunity to correct your mistakes.
All will be forgiven if you join me."
"Your people? You're the leader? Damn, I had you pegged as an empty-headed secretary." She laughed, so I continued. "What do you mean lies?"
Lucy replied, "The fallen are not your enemy. Remember, there are two sides to every fight. The fallen were banished because we were growing too strong, and your Creator was afraid we would overtake them. Like everything in your world, this is about those in power doing everything they can to stay in power. Our only crime was wanting our rightful share of eternity and all the privileges that go with it."
The sick feeling in my stomach continued to grow. This was spiraling fast. "So you are saying that you just want your share of the power creation, nothing more. And what would you do with it then?"
Lucy's smile faded. "Your existence is nothing but an irritation at this point. I offer you an opportunity to live with immortality and youth, yet you doubt my generous intentions. We could help each other, Finn. Your power is so much more than most. Together, we could finally make a difference in this senseless war."
Light bulb. I looked up at the beautiful woman above me at the railing of the yacht. "Lucy, huh? Is that short for Lucifer?" She didn't reply. "That's what I thought. I would rather masturbate with barbed wire than join you."
"Suit yourself. Time to face your hidden demons, Finn Rourke."
The words on the wall echoed through my head. "Upon the setting sun of a new day, take heed where demons hide." Simultaneously, all the hunters on the deck stepped forward with guns drawn. The air exploded with gunfire. The fear of drowning never left me, and with my hands locked behind me, I felt the bullets move through my wall of protection. At the last second, I swept them all aside. The relief at surviving the volley of gunfire was short-lived, as I heard a gurgling sound. Laughter came from the ship above me as the inflatable raft rapidly deflated. Water rushing around my feet and panic filling my chest. I can't focus, can't connect to a source. The front of the raft and the weight attached to my feet slipped under the water. The last thing I saw was Lucy gently waving goodbye. The water rushed around me, and the cold shock almost caused me to instinctively take breath. I have no idea how fast I was sinking as the pressure built in my ears. Finally, the weight hit the bottom, and I pulled hard at the bindings on my wrists, the pain searing from the salt water and the cuts. Connect to a source, Finn. Find a source. I thought of Tiffany and my mother and Daniel, but the fear and panic were overwhelming. Damn it, Finn, don't you give up! The first pangs of distress hit my lungs as they begged for fresh air, my mind fighting the instinct to take a breath. Fight, Finn! Connect to a source! You can do this! I focused on the bindings, breaking, but nothing happened. I imagined the cement weight floating back to the surface, but it never moved. A searing pain shot through my lungs as they now screamed for air. Oxygen deprivation. A lightheaded calm drifted through my mind, relieving some of the panic and some of the control. Water rushed into my lungs and fire filled my chest. Damn it, Finn, fight! I see Tiffany. I see Mom. I see Daniel. I hear music. Oh no. I see a light. The Probatus of Finn Rourke. Finn awoke and blinked several times as the late afternoon sun baked him. His lazy summer afternoon, floating in the rowboat, was part of a traditional family vacation to Door County, Wisconsin, where his family rented a cottage on Green Bay. The gentle waves rocked the boat as he slept and worked on his tan. A strange dream lingered in the edges of his subconscious about a beautiful blonde woman and a one-handed boy. Shaking his head to clear his mind, he yelled out to his sister, "Kira, don't go too far out." His younger sister was floating a short distance away from the boat on an inflatable ring. Even though Finn was an above-average swimmer, he was reluctant to swim with her. A near-death accident in this lake 6 years prior kept him happily in the boat. "You know, there are lake sturgeon in there that would eat you in one bite," he teased. "Oh, stuff it, you loser! At least I'm brave enough to actually get wet," she replied back and kicked an arc of water into the boat. Finn flinched and grabbed an oar and slapped the water in her direction, a small wave covering her. These were indeed the best of times, and Finn settled back into the chair on the rowboat to catch the last bit of sun before it sank into the bay. The perfect blue sky made the day seem to last extra long. A light breeze kept the summer heat in check. With nothing but time on his hands, Finn stretched out and smiled. Several minutes passed with blissful silence when an unnerving tingle shot through Finn's spine and made him shiver. The sun was just touching the lake, and he squinted into the light trying to get his bearings. Something was wrong. He searched the water for his sister and froze as the floating tube drifted away, empty. "Kira!" he screamed, the panic flooding his body. He stood and put one foot on the rail of the rowboat, ready to dive. An old fear pulled him back. "Kira! Somebody help!" The beaches were empty, the facing cabins all dark. The water, rippling, made it impossible to see motion under the water. With a cringe of repressed fear, he dove into the water. The clarity was poor in this sandy area of the bay, and tall weeds reached skyward, stopping a foot beneath the surface. A thrashing commotion nearby caught his attention, and he pulled himself through the weeds in that direction. The weeds seemed to grab at his legs and pull him down, refueling him with fresh fears of drowning. Panic pulled him to the surface for air and a chance to detangle from the weeds. Again he dove in the direction of the commotion, tall weeds again wrapping around his arms and legs like they had a will of their own. Then something solid grabbed his leg. A jolt of terror made Finn retract and spin in place to see Kira frantically reaching for him. He pulled himself close to her, and she immediately locked around his neck in a death grip. The sudden dread of drowning consumed him as her legs continued to thrash in an effort to free themselves from the entangled weeds. His lungs at the breaking point, Finn pried his sister off him and pushed her away to return to the surface. As his face broke the surface of the water, a hand wrapped around his ankle and pulled him under with superhuman strength. Both Finn and his sister were frantic, both preparing to drown, albeit Kira was about to go first. Finn's frantic kicks did nothing to free him from her grasp. Then she let go and was calm. He looked at her, floating just beyond her reach, her eyes open wide in horror, hands clutching her own throat. Desperation filled Finn as he watched his sister drown. Like a long-forgotten memory, something deep inside connected with the girl's wide eyes staring in desperation. The world shifted to a shade of blue, and time slowed to a near stop. The horror of drowning frozen on his sister's face. The dilemma laid out in front of him, Finn considered his options for bringing air to his sister. Her legs thoroughly and hopelessly tangled. Freeing her would be difficult, and she would latch onto him again in desperation. The answer was simple: make oxygen from water. Water is just hydrogen and oxygen after all. To trap the air was the question. A vague recollection of creating a water barrier lingered in the back of his mind. Time to engage the power. Floating mid-depth, with long light filtering through the water, time returned to normal, and Finn immediately pulled his hands and legs into a ball. In one fast motion, he thrust his hands outward, palms facing out, and a shock wave pressed outward past his sister and stopped. His hands still out, he focused his power on passing an electrical charge from his left hand to his right. It is well known that the human body is capable of generating a great deal of electrical power. Now he just had to focus and control it. Instantly, each hand started to fizz as oxygen poured from his left hand and hydrogen poured from his right. The gas rose till it hit the dome barrier, which rapidly began filling with breathable air. Within seconds, Kira's head was out of the water and she began coughing. Again, she frantically splashed to free herself, her desire to live rekindled. The gases poured from his hands, and soon they both splashed down into the thick mud at the bottom of the bay. She continued to cough up the water she had aspirated as Finn worked to free her legs from the tangle of weeds. Kira looked up at her big brother with tears in her eyes and wrapped her arms around his neck. "Thank you, Finn. Please, get me out of here." It was a hug of affection, not panic. Finn smiled and replied, "No problem at all. Let's see if I can channel my inner Moses." He scooped her out of the mud and stood in the protective bubble. Looking up, the murky light filtered in from the setting sun. Slowly, the roof of the bubble began to stretch, becoming lighter and lighter, till it came close to the surface. Finally, it broke through to the sky, and the bubble became a column. Finn then looked straight ahead, and the column barrier formed a point toward shore and began pushing outward. Walls of water stood 15 feet high as Finn walked toward shore with Kira in his arms. The wall in front of them broke through, and a clear path to land opened. Falling to his knees in the sand, Finn looked up and down the beach, which remained empty. Then he looked down at Kira and said, "Are you all right?" She looked up at him with a wide smile, the last light of the sun disappearing into the bay. "Congratulations, Finn Rourke. You have passed your probatus."